Okay, this is going to be a little bit short because I wanted to show you some things before I started gluing them together. Uh, you can see here I was working on the couch, and this fits really nicely. I didn't do some folding correctly somewhere because this is popping out. Um, I added some gray board in here, and I now know what I'm going to do for the final. You can also see there's some pieces here that I'm choosing to cut off, some little hangover edges that I don't like very much. And I also made a mistake here. You can see this one got accidentally glued on the outside. This is also not reinforced on the bottom, which I would rather have it reinforced a little bit. But I do really like this particular Davenport. I think that's what they were calling it. Now, what I really wanted to talk about were these pieces. This is a wall mirror, which is very common in the Victorian era. Anytime that you had women with long dresses and people that were wearing hats and stuff, you kind of had to have one of these sort of mirrors in a hallway where you could take things on and put things on and take things off. And this is the little model, and this is here for the grandfather clock. Now, the grandfather, each of these have a lot of little teensy weensy moving parts. You can see here all of the tiny little pieces that are getting glued in. Look at some of these little tags. And even though I printed these out, 3 millimeters, 3 to 5 millimeters bigger, it's still going to be tiny. Now, this is one of the few pieces when you flip it over, there's nothing on the back. Like the couch here, I get a back on that. Even the grandfather clock has something on the back. This one, I ran all of these instructions through a translator, and it's Danish. Basically, anything that says UD, I need to cut out, and what they're asking is that a piece of glass or reflective mirror piece is put back here, and then glued down to the little tabs. Now, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do it with gray board, and I'm going to do it with aluminum foil because um, I've got all of the folding done here. I always do the folding before the cutting because it's simply easier to maintain the integrity, the structural integrity of the paper. And you can see why I went and used the this will show you better than anything else the quality of these prints. If you look here, the difference in these. So I ran all of this through the printer. You can see here it's just a smidge bigger, just a smidge bigger. So I wanted to show you, these are kind of a lot of little teeny fiddly bits. And I wanted to show you in particular, I do not have this glued together yet because you can see it's kind of wonky. And you can see here, I did some, because frankly, I'm not reading the directions unless I absolutely have to. Like for this one, I needed to read the directions and what they asked me to do. I needed to know what UD meant. So for the rest of the, you can see here, I cut this piece out. I folded it the way that it's supposed to go, but then I forgot that these pieces were going to be constructed individually and then placed onto this backing. So there's, I have to manipulate and get this to fit in. And because it's paper, and when you're gluing anything with paper, it swells. It's wet. Paper will swell when it gets wet or damp. So I'm doing this, like a little bit of this, and then I go to work on something else, and a little bit of this, and I go work on something else. I've preliminarily come in and done some brown around these edges because I don't like how when the edges show up here they look icky. And you can see here I went ahead and did these edges, but now it's like, well, crud, I'm going to need to put something on top of that. So again, this is the beauty of doing this in paper, that frankly Nowadays, if you, one of my patrons, is sitting down and working on this and you mess up a piece, you don't have to cry about it. You just print another one, which I think is kind of attractive. I personally don't have a printer, so I have to kind of wait on those things, you know, get together an order and take it down to be printed. So I work very carefully. But you can see, I now know that in my notes that this needs to be in 3 sections. I also, there's a little fudgy part here on the bottom where this one piece is just not quite long enough, that black piece. So I know that I would put a piece of, before even folding this down, I would make this piece and get it ready all to put together to the back, and I would put cardboard behind it and then glue everything together. So I'm kind of waiting for this to dry a bit, and then I will glue this piece in, and then this piece I've glued on. Once this is all pretty much dry after lunch, I'll probably glue this one in. But for right now, I can continue working on the mirror, and you can see what I'm talking about when I say tiny little fiddly bits. So I'm trying to figure out, you know, where I want to put the color. I wish I had a brown pen that was closer to this in color. And you're probably wondering too, why am I not using colored pencil? Well, the reason I'm not using colored pencil is because I don't have the right color, and B, the kind that I have is watercolor. So as soon as glue hits it, it's going to bleed. The acrylic paint pen has a lot of, it may seem like a, you know, kind of a expensive kind of thing, but man, I can get in there, I dab on the little bit of paint, it dries really quickly. So that's why I'm using those. So for right now, I'm gonna figure out how big this needs to be, cut out these inside pieces, and then just take a piece of aluminum foil and glue it straight to the front, let it dry, and then glue it into the back, and probably just put maybe a black piece of paper back here, because this is supposed to be mounted to a wall. It's not supposed to be freestanding, even though you can see here it's got like a little, this gets glued in here. And I also need to add in some board here, and when I say board, I'm using the gray board, the inexpensive gray board, that cuts pretty easily. I don't even measure. I basically just put it in here, draw a line, and work with it that way. So again, there's going to be more about this in the videos, but just to kind of show you where we're going. So in the next part of this video, I'll show you what everything looks like finished. Okay, here is the second part of this video. This piece took me start to finish maybe an hour. It's got some problems. This is the smaller version of the chest of drawers. You can see where there's like a big drawer here and some smaller ones here and something up above. I love the amount of detail. Even in these not so great copies, you can see the little keyholes. And I was testing out to see what gold paint might look like on here. I also did some testing with taking the heavyweight paper, and this piece right here is a separate piece, because you can see it's kind of going off the edges. It's 3 of them together, which makes up about 1 millimeter, maybe just a teensy bit over, and I like that. It doesn't bow as much under the glue. But you can also see here I made a mistake. I didn't trim something here before I got the glue down. This went together really quickly, and I really enjoyed putting this piece together. I'm also kind of messing around with what might be better for putting some stability under the foot. Okay, you go away. The little feet part here, but you can see this is at an angle, so this would need to be smaller, because I think maybe the bamboo would work better, but I just wanted to see if it would work. So this one went together in about an hour. These two took much longer, and I think it's just because of having to do so much piecing. And you can see here I've just wrapped this around. I found a tiny mistake in the design for this, and if you look here, you can see this is a little shorter on this side and this is a little longer on this side. If we flip it over on the back, you can see something's wrong with this. So part of it I'm hoping is I can get rid of it by some of the making sure some of the folding and the scoring is done well. Interesting, when I put the Danish through the translator to score when you're folding, and I'm using a bone folder and just a straight edge, to score, it's scratching, which I thought was interesting. This, you can see there are some problems here because I didn't have this. There's some problems. I need to fix it. And here you can see I only did one width of paper and it's really super duper crooked. And part of the reason for that is it's just one width of paper. I did like how I handled these parts here, which I thought were going to be way more complicated to put in, were way easier than I thought. But I know what I want to do with this now. This by far was the hardest one, and it is so wonky. You can see how it's kind of crooked on this side. Part of it is I think I did things in the wrong order. I didn't double up on some of the paper. Like this should have been doubled and tripled up. The bottom part, I think all of this to about here looks okay. You can see here there's still some paper on the outside here. I'm not happy. And then this part on the bottom I didn't like because there's, yeah. And it's partially because of these two pieces that I think what I'm going to do, I resolved in my notes. I think what I'm going to do, that instead of simply, I'm going to give you two options because I'd like you to see what the piece looks like when it was, being printed. Sorry, I have to raise this up. That what I'm going to do is, wow, this one's on top. In the previous part of this video, you saw that I had to pull these apart. You can see in some of these, things are crammed really close together. And when I say really close together, there's about a millimeter in between these. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you this piece, which is the original with all the Dutch, or the Danish, not Dutch, Danish. But then what I'm also going to do is I'm going to take these pieces and put them on into a different document. Basically just like cut them out and put them in a different document so that you'll have all of, say, these pieces in one document, all of these pieces in one printable document. And then for something like this, because I have access to a computer program, I think I'm going to try to do something with a wood grain, so there's something that you can just paste along the back that is the same. This in here, it's not perfect. It's just a little tin foil. You can also get peel and stick mirrors that I think would work just as well. So I'm going to have those options as well. But yeah, for things like this, I think this is what needs to be done, because I need to, in some of these patterns, this part right here needs to be altered. It needs to have extra of this where this black is right here. The problem with this piece is you can see where those dotted lines are here and where that corner is, and then look at that corner there. That's a full millimeter off. And I think that's why everything kind of got messed up. So I need to do a little correction there. This piece is the right size. I think I just need to alter where this comes off and where this comes off. It needs to come not from this corner, but from this tinier one here. So yeah, this is the only one. And I think it's simply because it had so many fiddly bits in it that it got really... it's very easy to have, you can see where this is kind of going one way and that's going the other way. But overall, that's I think it's pretty cool. This one I'm terribly fond of, and this is the miniature version of it that I made. Also, I think what I'd like to do is use some of this yellow and put it on top of some of these areas, or maybe give you some extra that you can print out. So if you don't have paint, you could just glue a piece on top of it. And it's nice that I've got like these big pieces here that I can do selections of and then just kind of cobble them together in a program to print out. So that's what I think I'm going to do for these, because these are way more complicated than, say, if I go down here a little bit, like I keep coming back to this piece. This piece is pretty not complicated, but other pieces are more complicated. So, with that being said, I need to go back to work and do some hunting and finding of things, and see if I can start cutting some pieces apart and getting them ready for you guys. And I still so desperately want to cut a hole in this and have the little drawers come out. So anyway, that's what I've been working on today. And I will see you in the next video. Thank you, patrons, for sticking with me. And I hope you had a great weekend, even with everything that's going on in the world. We'll just leave it at that. We don't talk about it. And I'll see you in the next video.